Lindsay, please tell me the chapel doors are locked.
Are? They were.
Were?
Past tense feels important here.
And why are there nuns meowing in the hallway?
Honestly, that's the least concerning thing they've done today.
One of them hissed at me.
Did you hiss back?
No, Lindsay. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm terrified of nuns.
Oh? I wish I would have known that before Never mind.
I panicked.
Well, stop making eye contact. It encourages them.
Also, why is there a wooden crate hanging from the ceiling with a parachute attached to it?
Do not stand under that.
Don't tell me there's a beaver in there.
There was.
Was?
Again, past tense feels very important here.
Great. So we've got feral nuns, loose airborne beavers, and a giant demon effigy in the lobby?
Oh, that's for later. We're gonna parade our emotional baggage around, set it on fire, and then pretend we're healed.
Finally, a wellness plan for people who hate journaling.
Oh, also, the Newport exhibit is leaking scandal.
How exactly does an exhibit leak scandal?
Well, you know, government paperwork, moral panic, and sailors making terrible choices.
So, history.
Exactly.
Well, come on then. The guests are waiting and something in the chapel just bit the wax pope.
Who are we? I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Gavin.
Welcome to the Oddities Department. This is episode 20. Tonight's tour starts inside a medieval convent where repression, stress, and group psychology turn holy silence into full chaos.
Then we head to Idaho, where wildlife management looked at a beaver problem and came up with a very clever and still bonkers solution.
From there, I'll take you to Bali for a parade of spectacular proportions.
And we finish in Newport, Rhode Island, where the United States Navy tried to investigate naughty sailors and ended up with just more naughty sailors doing more naughty things. 2 quick rules before we begin.
Rule number 1. Make sure to put on your official Oddities Department raincoat and rubber boots. This tour is wet, smelly, and a bit messy.
Rule number 2. Don't take any orders from anyone dressed up as a Navy official. It's a trap.
Let's get this thing started before the nuns organize.
First stop, Exhibit 115. Lindsay, take the floor.
For this exhibit, welcome to Nuns Gone Wild, the medieval edition. We're talking synchronized meowing choirs that freaked out entire towns, biting frenzies that spread like wildfire across countries, and nuns straight up cosplaying as zoo animals. These weren't the serene, prayerful sisters of your imagination. This was repression, stress, and human psychology colliding in the most unhinged ways possible.
Beg your pardon?
Don't worry, Gavin. We're gonna go a lot deeper.
Great.
Nuns. But what if nuns were just a bunch of problem daughters? You know, the ones families didn't know what to do with, and they brought undiagnosed traits like ADHD or other neurospicy wiring into the convent. Traits that, under extreme pressure, turned into vocal stems, mimicry explosions, and full group chaos. Well, Gavin, buckle up. This is going to be a meowy, bitey, and wildly speculative, in the best way. So let's start with convent life. Here's the hard facts. Many women, especially noble or gentry daughters, were sent to convents not because so many young women were called to be the Lord's wife, but it was more like a family strategy. Extra daughters, you know, the unwifeable ones.
Rude.
They're too independent, too plain, disabled, or even just surplus. Even those who might cost too much in dowries got dumped in the nunnery.
What the fuck is a surplus daughter?
You can only afford to feed so many in the medieval times, probably.
Oh, I suppose.
Now keep in mind that spiritual dowry was much cheaper than a wedding. Families preserved inheritance by parking girls behind walls. Some entered as young girls for education, and then they just never left. Convent life meant rigid schedules, silence rules, isolation, possible malnutrition, and constant sin and guilt monitoring. Not to mention sexual repression.
These poor girls.
Just imagine being a teenager with what we'd now call ADHD, racing thoughts, need for stimulation, vocal tics, or fidgety energy, and your family goes, you know what? Nunnery. Yeah, that'll be perfect. Lots of rules, lots of quiet and structure. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. These convents were literally pressure cookers. Strict silence, endless prayers, the same gray walls day in and day out. For someone wired for movement, novelty, or verbal stimming, that is literal torture.
I would die.
I would also die. And think about it. If one nun starts letting out weird sounds or behaviors as a stress release, boom, the mimicry kicks in. People with ADHD and similar traits often have higher echolalia or imitation tendencies, repeating sounds, copying behaviors, especially in high-stress closed groups.
You don't say.
As someone who literally repeats everything all the time, I would be in hell. So because this is, like I said, a high-stress closed group, imagine one meow escaping a nun's lips as a stim or rebellion, and suddenly the whole choir is caterwauling. Meow, 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 meow. I love it. Now, we do have to take a moment to provide a special shout out to Jeb on this very specific point. We meow so beautifully together. This is our joint stim at karaoke. We will just burst into meowing at any given point. So, Jeb, love you. Anywho, okay. I can't imagine that every nun had ADHD. That's a silly modern projection. But statistically, think about it. Families were more likely to offload difficult or different daughters. The ones who didn't fit the perfect marriage mold. The chatty ones, the restless ones, the ones who climbed trees or couldn't sit still in church. So, I can only conclude that convents became accidental neurodivergent warehouses, interpreted through a demonic lens.
Oh, no.
It gets better. So, let's start with
it.
It really does.
Or does it get worse?
My mental pictures are very vivid, and I found much enjoyment in researching this exhibit. So we're going to start with the OGs, the meowing nuns. From the 19th century medical book called Hecker's Epidemics of the Middle Ages, a nun in a large French convent starts meowing. Not a big deal, but then the others join. Soon, the whole place does scheduled group meowing sessions for hours, daily. The townspeople are horrified. Side note here, back then, cats equaled devil associations.
Oh.
Full chaos. Soldiers were called in, knights, police, whatever you want to call them, the authorities. They literally had to threaten these nuns with a good old-fashioned flogging to get them to stop.
I would be unwell if I was ever in a building and a bunch of nuns started meowing.
I have to admit that if I was a nun and I was not allowed to have sex and a bunch of soldiers threatened me with a flogging, I might just say, sign me up.
Fair enough.
Oh, no. Meow, meow. Oh, no. I'm trying to stop. Maybe your flogging will help.
Meow.
So we've got one nun. Maybe she's the problem daughter with undiagnosed ADHD or anxiety. She lets out the smallest meow. It could be a vocal stim for regulation. It could be boredom, rebellion, or a stress break. In a group full of similarly wired women under repression, it spreads like a viral TikTok sound. Mimicry is a real human thing. It's amplified in stressed, suggestion-heavy environments. Mass psychogenic illness loves close communities like convents, schools, or factories. I just enjoy picturing Vespers turning into the world's worst cat choir. Meow. These holy women, sworn to chastity and silence, sounding like they're filming demonic OnlyFans content.
did you find this shit?
I misunderstood when you said you wanted to see my pussy. So sorry. But think about it. The abbeys had to be losing their shit. Too late. It is contagious. And if some of these nuns were neurospicy, vocal stems make perfect sense as an outlet when you can't run, dance, or talk freely. When one woman cracks, chaos ensues. Personally, I'm here for it.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to the second example. If you thought meowing was weird, let's go to a 15th century German convent. One nun just starts biting. I mean, we all feel the urge to bite people sometimes. At least I hope we all do.
There's actually a scientific reason behind that.
There better be. Because there is a quiet urge inside, at least me, that is, I want to bite it. It's not like cuteness aggression. Look at those little baby cheeks. I want to bite it. Holy shit, I need therapy.
It is cuteness aggression.
Yep.
And it happens because of emotional regulation. When you experience intense joy or affection, sometimes you just want to bite something.
Maybe these nuns were just full of love and misunderstood. We can hope.
Maybe.
Anyway, the biting, much like the aforementioned meowing, spreads within. When it spreads to other convents across Germany, Holland, and reportedly even Rome. Just a bunch of unhinged sisters leaving teeth marks on each other in a frenzy until exhaustion. Gavin, these places are not close together. Were these nuns writing letters to other convents like, okay, sisters, hear me out. What if we just bit the ever-loving shit out of each other for funsies? And the rest of them were just like, bet, hold my beads, watch this shit. So, there you have it. Biting. From meowing to chomping. If meowing was the stem, biting feels like escalated frustration release. Oral fixation under repression, or just, I need sensory input and this is it.
Or was it maybe rabies? Were these rabid nuns?
The mental picture just got so much better. But again, the spread of the biting is also classic mass psychogenic illness. If you take stress plus suggestion plus the urge to mimic, blend it all together with possible neurodivergent traits, and you have a perfect storm. Keep in mind, these are the same women who took vows of peace. Now they're running around like holy vampires. Sister, stop biting Agnes. I can't. It's my new spiritual practice. Let's keep going, shall we? Now...
Yes, please.
Are you still scared of nuns? Are they feeling a little more cutesy now?
With the biting, no.
Okay.
That doesn't help.
Well, I'm not sure this will make it better, but we're gonna try. We're gonna go to 1491 in the Spanish Netherlands. Nuns are racing around like dogs, jumping trees like birds, and meowing, clawing like cats. Think medieval furry convention. Full-on feral mode. In an environment starving for stimulation, this becomes the ultimate release. As we talked about before, neurospicy folks often use intense sensory-seeking or animal-like play behaviors as a coping mechanism. What happens when you lock these types of people up together? It's a recipe for chaos. Hilarious, unhinged. I really wished I could have witnessed it. So, as it turns out, medieval nuns invented the furry fandom. You can't change my mind on this.
No.
I have no documented facts, but this is my chosen reality now. But except that their personas... Except their personas got them threatened with exorcism instead of getting badges.
Oh, I didn't think about that part.
But here's why it all makes sense. When you take that mass psychogenic illness, which is real, and stress-driven and spreads via suggestion in high-pressure groups, then Add the convent environment as context. No wonder these poor nuns went crazy. They didn't just break rules, they meowed, bit, and clawed their way into history. So, next time you're stressed and feel like stimming, you're in good company. Just maybe don't do it in a group of 50.
Or in a church.
Or, that might be chaos that I subscribe to.
Actually, yeah, I'm not thinking about that. I might actually go.
I've got a milestone birthday coming up, and how many of our friends do you think we could get to just crash a service and begin meowing?
Oh my god. All of them.
Meow. Meow. Maybe the cops will be called and I'll get a good flogging out of it. Who knows?
There you go.
All right, Gavin, so that is the story of the feral nuns who just went cray-cray throughout history. How are we feeling? Nuns more approachable, nuns more terrifying.
I'm way more on board with the meowing nuns than the biting ones for sure.
Agree.
When I was a child, I used to go snowboarding a lot.
Yes.
And there is a group of nuns here in the Pacific Northwest that also like to ski.
What? Would they ski in their habits?
Yes. And I thought I was losing my goddamn mind when I look up the mountain and I see 12 nuns coming at me. And I've never been the same since.
This is actually very comforting to me, knowing that nuns now have the permission for other outlets. This is probably why the meowing stopped. They're like, maybe we should let them take up skiing or something. Like, maybe we should let them have hobbies.
You're probably 100% correct. They're like, they won't stop meowing.
Go outside.
Give them some skis. Go touch grass.
This all makes sense. I love it. I need to run into a nun and be like, so.
What do you like to do on Tuesday?
Would you please come to the podcast and tell us how exactly you should solve a problem like Maria? Because historically, did not turn out well.
That was fascinating. I did not know any of that.
Now you do. You're welcome.
I do. Always learning around here, always learning.
All right, Gavin. I am very excited to see what you have for me. What do you got?
Exhibit number 116. And I know that we have already been through Operation Cat Drop.
Yes.
We've already walked through that exhibit. But did you know that we Americans also had a very specific problem? The kind of problem that could only exist in post-war America, when the nation was flush with red, white, and blue confidence, a surplus of military equipment, and the unshakable belief that any obstacle could be overcome with enough ingenuity and a complete disregard for conventional thinking. The year is 1948. 3 years since we dropped the big one on Japan. The boys are home, the economy is booming, and in the great state of Idaho, there is a crisis a-brewing. A crisis involving very large teeth, very flat tails, and an alarming amount of water in places where water should not be. Well, that part is debatable, but I digress.
I'm so confused right now. Continue.
Perfect. I'm speaking, of course, about beavers. And I'm not talking about the 90s Nickelodeon classic series Angry Beavers. We're talking about tree-chewing, dam-building American beavers.
Merca.
Now, before your eyes glaze over at the mention of wildlife management, stay with me, because this story, like all great American tales, starts with the best of intentions and rapidly descends into madness. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's start at the beginning. Let's set the scene, shall we? It's post-war America, and Idaho's got beavers. Too many damn beavers. In all the wrong places. See, by the early 20th century, beavers had been hunted nearly to extinction across North America. Turns out, people really wanted beaver pelt hats. You may remember the Mad Hatter's exhibit, because nothing says I'm a serious businessman quite like wearing a big fat rodent on your head. Fashion is a hell of a drug, folks, and don't mind the mercury.
I don't want to bring back the fact that we basically demolished an entire species to extinction for fashion. However, can we bring back men wearing giant faux fur hats like for rich people only?
Absolutely.
It will be like the douchebag identifier. Be like, yep, that one. Okay.
But by the 1940s, conservation efforts had done a fine job at bringing up their numbers, perhaps a little too well. Beavers were back, baby, and they were doing what beavers do best. Building dams, flooding things, and generally making themselves a nuisance to ranchers who preferred their water to flow in predictable, non-beaver-approved directions. So ranchers started complaining. These beavers are damming up our streams, they're flooding our pastures, they're making a mess of our property, and the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, being the reasonable people they are, said, okay, we will relocate them. Simple enough, one would think. You catch the beavers, you move them somewhere else. The ranchers get their land back, the beavers get new real estate, and Fish and Game gets to feel good about themselves. It's a win-win all around, everyone's happy. Except for one tiny problem. The plan was straightforward. Trap the troublesome beavers from the settled areas, relocate them to the Chamberlain Basin, a remote, pristine wilderness in central Idaho where they could build all of the dams they wanted without flooding anyone's pasture. Perfect beaver habitat. No angry ranchers, no angry beavers. Problem solved. But how do you get a beaver into the middle of nowhere?
I've got a bunch of single friends that would like to know the answer to that exact question.
You see, the Chamberlain Basin isn't exactly accessible. We're talking about the remote Idahoan backcountry. There are no roads, no trails wide enough for vehicles, just wilderness, mountains, and banjos. Exactly. The traditional method of getting anything into Idaho's remote backcountry involved packing it on mules. Food, supplies, equipment. If you wanted it in the wilderness, you strapped it to a mule and hoped for the best. So naturally, Fish and Game figured they just packed the beavers in the same way.
Oh, the mental picture of a bunch of beavers strapped to mules is making my heart sore.
This exhibit comes with a lot of imagery. So first we have to catch the beavers, put them in crates, strap the crates to the mules, and pack them into the wilderness. Easy. It sounds routine. The kind of thing they've done 1,000 times over, minus the beaver.
My mental picture did not include the crates, and I'm very disappointed. Anyway.
But here's the thing about beavers that apparently nobody considered until they tried it. They are very smelly.
Oh, yes.
And not just a little bit. We're talking a musky, pungent, wet shit kind of smell. It's an odor that lingers and makes you long for the smell of daisies and death. And the mules, they did not appreciate this stench. Turns out, when you strap a crate full of angry, terrified, stinking beaver to a mule, the mule has opinions. Very strong ones. Opinions that it expresses through the time-honored mule tradition of absolutely losing its shit. The mules start bucking, kicking, braying, and generally doing everything in its power to separate itself from the offending beaver and its offensive smell as quickly and as violently as possible.
Oh, this is getting better. Mules do not fuck around at all.
No, they do not.
Even in the best circumstances.
They tried multiple times. They tried different mules, different crates, different approaches. Same result. The mules wanted nothing to do with the beavers, and you can't exactly force a mule to carry something it does not want to carry.
Exactly.
Well, you can try, but it ends poorly for everyone involved. So there's your problem. You've got beavers that need relocating, you've got wilderness that's only accessible by mule, and you've got mules that would rather die than carry a beaver. Whatever is a park ranger to do? If you're a normal person, you might think, well, maybe we could heavily sedate the beavers or wrap them up like little beaver burritos.
Aww.
Or find a different route. Or just accept that some beavers are going to stay where they are. But if you're Elmo Heater, the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, not to be confused with Tickle Me Elmo, you look up at the sky and you think, what if we just dropped them?
Yeah.
However, after that statement, maybe we should be confused. Because I'm sorry, what? What if we dropped them from a plane with parachutes? Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to appreciate the magnificent leap of logic that occurred in this man's brain. The problem is ground transportation. The solution? Eliminate the ground. Just skip that whole part entirely. Go straight from point A to point B via the most direct route possible. A screaming vertical descent through the atmosphere. Aerial insertion of beavers.
Insertion. That's a big word for Elmo. Good job.
It's the kind of thinking that either makes you a visionary or gets you committed to the Trans-Allegheny Mental Asylum. Sometimes both. And surprisingly enough, the idea of airdropping beavers predates Operation Cat Drop. The two incidences were entirely independent operations separated by purpose, geography, time. Over a decade of time.
Excuse me, this was not the first time someone airdropped beavers.
Operation Cat Drop, remember? We dropped cats in Borneo. And I was curious, wondering if perhaps one of the two of them got the idea from each other. But no.
Right?
They were two completely independent situations. So, miraculously, somehow, Heater convinced his superiors that this was a good idea. And I personally would pay good money to have been in that meeting. So Lindsay and I are going to reenact this conversation for you right now.
Oh, we are? Okay. All right.
Oh, we are.
Let me get into character. Oh, Idaho. Okay. All right, Heater. How do you propose we handle this semi-aquatic rodent situation?
Listen here, I think we pack these buck-toothed engineers into crates and just launch them out of a moving aircraft.
I beg your pardon? Come again?
With military surplus parachutes, sir. Aerial deployment is the future.
Oh, well, why didn't you say so? If we're using parachutes, consider it authorized.
Beautifully done.
I think we nailed the Idaho vibe.
I think we did too.
To anybody that I like that is from Idaho, I apologize to you and you alone. Continue.
I do not. I stand on 10 toes down.
I mean, I can't think of any right now, but I figured I'd cover all my bases.
I'm being facetious, but only slightly, because in 1948, the Idaho Department of Fish and Game approved Operation High Dive, the systematic aerial deployment of beavers into the Chamberlain Basin wilderness. Let me paint you a picture of the logistics here, because they are chef's kiss. First, you've got to catch the beavers. Now, as you can imagine, catching a beaver is not quite like catching a fish. Beavers have teeth that can chew through trees. They have powerful tails that can slap water hard enough to sound like a gunshot, and they have claws. They have attitude. The last thing they want is to be caught by a human. But catch them they did. 76 presumably very angry beavers. Next, you need crates. Crates specifically designed to hold one extremely pissed-off beaver. These crates need to be sturdy enough to contain an animal that makes its living gnawing through wood, light enough to attach it to a parachute, and designed to open upon landing so the beaver could escape. Oh, and they needed air holes, because apparently in 1948, people generally frowned upon suffocating animals before throwing them out of airplanes. Standards, you know.
At least they had standards. But also, this in 1948, this had to be an engineering debacle. Marvel debacle. Also, add the mix that Idaho was behind all the logistics of this. I am on the edge of my seat invested. Oh my God.
This whole story I don't even think I would need to mention where it came from.
No, that's just
for
a
people
little...
to understand. That sounds like Idaho.
As you mentioned before, chef's motherfucking kiss. Mwah.
And so you also need parachutes. Military surplus, probably. Because, they had a lot of parachutes back then. And finally, you need a pilot willing to fly a plane full of beavers. A pilot who will spend hours in an enclosed space with 76 smelly-ass, angry, terrified beavers. A pilot who will then have to push said beavers out of the plane at the appropriate moment.
Oh, what a job.
So August 1948, the day arrives. The beavers are crated, the parachutes are packed, and the plane is ready, and one special, unfortunate beaver, is about to make history. They named him Geronimo.
No, they didn't.
Oh, yes, because of course they did. Because when you're about to throw a beaver out of an airplane, you name it after the Apache warrior who allegedly shouted his name while jumping off a cliff.
Oh my God.
It's either brilliant or deeply insensitive, and I'm going with both.
Same. Respect and detest simultaneously.
Geronimo was loaded onto the plane, the first beaver to take to the skies, the first beaver to experience the miracle of flight, followed immediately by the terror of free falling. What goes through a beaver's mind at that moment? Is it fear, confusion, regret about the last dam project? Or is there a moment, just a brief, shining moment, where Geronimo thinks, "Holy shit, I'm flying!"
God
We'll never know.
Damn it.
We'll never know because, tragically, beavers cannot speak. Though, given what they'd probably have to say about this experience, that's probably for the best. So the crate drops, the parachute deploys, and Geronimo descends into the Chamberlain Basin like the world's smallest and confused airborne ranger. He hits the ground, the crate opens, and Geronimo, presumably, after taking a moment to make sure all of his parts were still attached, waddles off into the wilderness to begin his new life. 1 down, 75 to go.
Oh my God.
After the following weeks, the operation continued. Beaver after beaver, crate after crate, parachute after parachute. The skies over Chamberlain Basin rained beavers like some Old Testament plague, except instead of locusts or frogs, it's furry foremen. 76 times, 76 beavers took the leap. 76 parachutes deployed and 76 crates hit the ground and opened. It worked. All but one survived. These magnificent bastards did the unthinkable. That is a 98.7% success rate. Do you know how many government programs have a 98.7% success rate? None.
Yeah, no.
0. The government can't achieve a 98.7% success rate on anything. But throw beavers out of a plane, they done did it.
Good job, y'all.
And the story gets better because the beavers didn't just survive, they thrived. Within days of landing, they already started building dams. Those beavers hit the ground, shook off the trauma of falling through the sky, and immediately got to work like nothing had ever happened. And their descendants are still there, today, right now, in the Chamberlain Basin. There are beavers whose great-great-great-grandparents fell out of the sky in 1948. Isn't that crazy?
That is insane. Obviously animals can communicate on some level. I'm wondering if that has been a part of, beaver lore since 1948 in some way or another. Like, do they all run and hide when they hear a plane? Like, we need this studied. We need this studied immediately.
Now, I would never suggest we return to that brand of wilderness chaos. Not on your life, sure. Operation High Dive was a win, but we were committing plenty of other ecological atrocities against the wildlands back in the day. We've smartened up since 1948, but we haven't stopped airdropping animals from airplanes. But we'll save those for another tour. And that was exhibit number 116, the Great Idaho Beaver Drop, a story about beavers, parachutes, and the magnificent absurdity of American ingenuity. And remember, when life gets tough, just be grateful nobody's trying to solve your problems by yeeting you out of a plane. Though honestly, given how 2026 is going, I wouldn't rule it out.
I might even volunteer at this point.
Let's go.
Although, that little teaser about other things being dropped from planes, I'm wondering if that Operation Elephant Drop movie is based in fact. Was that a documentary?
Maybe.
Oh, God.
So far we have cats and beavers.
And
I know there's more on the list.
I'm going to save that specific deep dive for when I have a little more chemical encouragement later.
Well, Lindsay, would you like to lead us into Exhibit 117?
Of course. So, even based on your last story, we know that throughout history, humans are odd, but predictable. Life hits us with bad vibes, toxic exes, or straight up demons, and we're like, I bet, let's set that shit on fire. Hell yeah! Welcome to the greatest version of that instinct on planet Earth. Ogoh-Ogoh night in Bali.
Ogoh-Ogoh?
Wake me up before you Ogoh-Ogoh. Speaking of stims, that has been mine for the last week.
I can only imagine.
So here's what happens. They build 25-foot nightmare monsters, parade them like it's their bachelor party, spin them around until the demons get vertigo, then they burn them. The entire island goes full do not perceive me for 24 hours directly after this ritual.
Damn.
It's a glorious mix of therapy, a block party, and a cosmic delete button all in one. And personally, I'm obsessed with it. So here's the deal. Bali uses the Saka calendar. Nyepi is their new year. But before the fresh start, they gotta deal with Butakala. These aren't little red guys with pitchforks. They're the chaotic energies. Greed, rage, probably FOMO. You get the idea. Part of nature, part of us. Bali's like, we see you, messy kings. Let's throw you a rager and then kick your ass off the island. They don't cancel the bad energy. They literally invite it to the parade. It's like, come through, trauma. We made you afloat.
It's kind of smart, honestly.
Right? So the whole lead up is called Buta Yashnya, or Big Purification Offerings. And this is not just vibes only. It's considered spiritual maintenance with better production value than Coachella. Just imagine if your group chat had a yearly ritual where instead of just saying, man, this year sucked, you literally build a 20-foot statue of your situationship and set it on fire in front of the entire neighborhood.
I'm here for that.
It is literally iconic, and I need this in America yesterday. This isn't designated to just one random Tuesday. It is a whole sequence of events that build up. Let's start with Malasti. First, they take the holy statues to the beach, purify everything with seawater. The whole procession is in traditional dress. It's beautiful, and it's low-key the most organized thing the island does all year. This is followed by Makaru. This is the day before. They scatter rice, beat the hell out of a bamboo drum to vacuum the demons out of your house. It's kind of like spiritual Febreze, but with percussion. Then Tawur Kasanga, or Pongrupukan, or Ogoh-Ogoh time, baby.
Ogoh-Ogoh time.
Let's go. And Gavin, these statues are insane. There's traditional multi-armed monsters traveling right along next side to a COVID monster with teeth or whatever fresh hell that the year dropped.
Oh. So they're literally making these monsters based on like bad things that have happened?
Yeah, so the core toxic traits, basically greed, lust, envy, those kind of traits. They're making these monsters to represent that specific bad vibe, we'll call it.
I love this.
So yeah, Bali basically looks at modern life and goes, yep, even that gets fangs in a parade. The cultural confidence in this is unmatched. This brings us to parade night. So, on the eve of Nyepi, sunset hits. Big, strong guys hoist these giants. They spin them around and shake them like a salt shaker. Why? So the bad spirits get dizzy and lost. Wait, where's the house I was gonna haunt? There's drums, fire twirlers, screaming crowds. It's like a mosh pit that your ancestors would high-five. Some Ogoh-Ogoh have very enthusiastic anatomy, which is symbolic of that uncontrolled desire. I mean, grandmas are walking by them like, yep, that tracks. The Balinese do not clutch pearls. They literally invented the pearls.
Oh.
Then, at the end of the night, the statues get burned. Poof. All the bad energy and stress just disappears like toxic in-laws after a divorce. Bye-bye now. But here's the deal. We all do this in one way or another. Bali just does it bigger and better. But in reality, humans throughout history have been burning the bad way. India burns giant Ravana at Deshera. New Mexico burns Old Man Gloom. Europeans used to burn witch effigies. Witchy women and therapists alike are like, write the toxic thing on paper and burn it. Dear Chad, who ghosted me? It's not magic, it's just emotional arson, and by literal definition, it is fire. And yes, a real Balinese Ogoh-Ogoh statue showed up at Burning Man. Of course it did. We've got one culture where community duty, then total silence, and then the other. What if my trauma had LED lights and I did shrooms about it? This is an iconic crossover episode. I am here for psychoactive cultural collabs.
100%.
But let's go back to Bali. After the most epic parade and soul-cleansing party, dawn comes. At last, it's Nyepi. There are 4 rules. You stay home, there's no lights or fires, no work, and no fun. Technically, this is no pleasure, but we all know what that means.
Oh.
Planes are grounded, the streets are empty. The idea is that the demons think, damn, nobody's home, and they dip. In reality, people actually rest, families talk, the island resets, crime basically disappears. Even
Really?
It does. Even hotels are serving room service in whispers like they're in a spy movie. The whole island is on lockdown, so the spirits can't find them. Then, the next day, forgiveness visits. There's hugs, fresh starts, the good vibes are back online. So, to sum up, the Ogoh-Ogoh and Nyepi are genius. You face your inner darkness, parade it around town, shake it, burn it, send it off into the void, and then sit in silence and reset. No repression, just release it with style. Whether you're building a 25-foot demon in Bali or burning a post-it that says, "My fear of commitment," in your sink, we're all just trying to start fresh. Bali figured this out centuries ago, and they throw the best party doing it. So, the next time life sucks, make a statue, burn the note, and take the damn day off. Big thanks to Bali, you loud, silent, wise, unhinged legends. I'm booking a ticket.
Yeah, why aren't we doing this here? We should do this.
After
Wait,
research,
would that be cultural appropriation?
as long as our intent is pure, as long as it's not a
Yes.
mockery, as long as we're following the vibe, I imagine it would be fine. But also, I'm honestly thinking about doing that. How epic would that be? A birthday celebration? Like, make yourself a little effigy of whatever's been fucking with you the last year, and take your soul surfactant of choice and just manifest all your bad energy into this effigy, and then poof.
Poof. Let's do it.
And also, I would literally take any excuse for a designated day where nobody's allowed to talk to me, and I'm just in my house.
That does sound wonderful.
We should do it. Maybe we'll give it a test run on my birthday coming up.
There we go.
All right, Gavin. Now that we've discussed burning the demons away, what exhibit do you have for us next?
Oh, dear.
I just read the first fucking line.
This is Exhibit 118. Listen here, folks. Pull up a chair and put your papers down, because I've got a story for you. A real humdinger. The kind of tale that makes you spit out your bootleg hooch and say, "They did what now?" It's 1919, you see. The Great War's over, our boys are coming home, and the United States Navy, that bastion of discipline, honor, and moral rectitude, has got itself a problem. A big, throbbing problem right up there in Newport, Rhode Island. And I'm not talking about German U-boats or labor strikes or even the Spanish flu. No, sir. I'm talking about something far more scandalous, far more salacious, and if we're being honest here, far more entertaining than any of that. I'm talking about fellatio. Lots and lots of fellatio.
Sign me up, boy.
Some of you might know it by other terminology, perhaps cocksucking.
Yep.
Or nosh, or gobby, a blowy, a hummer, sloppy toppy, slobbing the knob, head, dome, the glug glug 3000.
That's my favorite.
Now, before you clutch pearls and faint dead away, let me tell you this. This isn't some tawdry tale of a few sailors getting frisky on shore leave. Oh no. This is a much rather different story. One you most certainly did not learn in school. Our story begins with one Chief Machinist Mate Irvin Arnold, a real Boy Scout type if there ever was one. Arnold gets himself stationed in Newport in early 1919, and within a month, just 1 month, he's convinced he stumbled upon Sodom and Gomorrah in sailor suits. Now, Newport, Rhode Island, wasn't exactly a backwater. It was a major naval training station, crawling with young recruits fresh off the farm, far from home, lonely, and as young men tend to be, horny as hell.
Hell yeah.
And where there's a concentration of young horny men with time on their hands and money in their pockets, well, nature finds a way, if you catch my drift.
I am picking up what you're laying down, sir.
Arnold noticed that certain sailors were a bit too friendly with each other, a bit too swishy, a bit too fond of gathering at the local YMCA. Yes, the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association. You know how the song goes. A wholesome Christian institution where they'd socialize, throw parties, and engage in what the Navy would later call immoral acts. The locals had a name for these fellows, the Ladies of Newport.
Oh.
And let me tell you, these ladies were living their best lives. They had their own slang, their own social circles, their own underground culture. They called each other by women's names, Becky and Gwendolyn, and such things. They'd cruise the streets, the parks, the YMCA. Some of them were sailors. Some of them were civilians. Some were what we'd call trade, masculine men who'd let the more effeminate fellows service them for money or kicks or both. It was, in short, a thriving queer community right under the Navy's nose, and Irvin Arnold was not having any of it.
Me neither, but only because I'm probably not invited. I've just got FOMO.
Arnold went to his superiors with tales of rampant homosexuality and sailors corrupting other sailors, of the YMCA being turned into a den of iniquity. He painted a picture of moral decay so vivid, so alarming that the Navy brass sat up and took notice. Something had to be done. The honor of the service was at stake. The health and morale of our fighting men hung in the balance.
I don't think that these people knew much about the morale of the men that were fighting.
And so then, in March of 1919, the Navy authorized an investigation. They put Arnold in charge and gave him a team of operators, and told him to root out this homosexual menace once and for all. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, Arnold's gonna have a great time. I can feel it.
Now, here's where things get really interesting. See, the Navy had a problem. How do you catch men in the act of homosexual behavior, you ask? You can't exactly burst into bedrooms without probable cause. You need evidence. You need witnesses. You need someone to actually participate in the homosexual acts and then testify about them in a court of law.
Let me guess.
And that's when some genius in the Navy brass had an idea. An idea so spectacularly stupid, so mind-bogglingly short-sighted that it could only have come from military intelligence. They decided to use decoys, undercover fluffers. That's right, folks. The United States Navy's master plan to stop sailors from having gay sex was to have other sailors go out and have gay sex with them, and then arrest them afterwards. I'll let y'all sit on that for a minute.
I wonder how vigorously these mole men volunteered and how quickly. Did they at least
I'm about to tell you.
pretend to hesitate, be like, oh man, that's going to be real gross, but I'll do it, I guess.
The Navy recruited young sailors. We're talking young, fresh-faced boys barely old enough to shave, and sent them out into Newport with explicit instructions. Infiltrate the queer community, gain their trust, let them make advances, and then, well, let's let the official records speak for themselves, shall we?
Did you say infiltrate or penetrate?
Both.
Okay.
These boys were told to allow immoral acts to be performed upon them. They were instructed to go to parties, to the YMCA, to private residences. They were to let queers diddle their skittles. They were to engage in mutual masturbations. Some of them were told to perform oral sex themselves, if necessary, to maintain their cover. And through it all, they were to take detailed notes about who did what to whom, where, when, and how.
Are these notes published somewhere? Are these notes available?
They sure are. The Navy called these boys, quote-unquote, operators. History might call them something else. Victims of entrapment, participants in state-sanctioned sexual exploitation, or if we're being really honest, just a bunch of young guys who got paid to get their dicks sucked, and then rat out the guys who did it. Nothing's changed in 100 years, y'all. One of the operators, a young sailor, we'll call Johnny, because his real name deserves better than to be dragged through this mess again, later testified about his experiences. He described going to parties where men danced with each other. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Where they'd pair off and disappear into bedrooms and back rooms, dark alleys, closets, anywhere really. Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
He described being approached by a civilian named Samuel Kent, who invited him back to his room at the YMCA.
Oh, no. Young man, wanna come back to mine? I said, young man, we're gonna have a good time. I said, young man, if you wanna suck mine, I got to put you in.
Damn!
Sorry, I was on a roll.
Get it! And what happened in that room at the YMCA? Well, according to Johnny's sworn testimony, Kent took my penis in his mouth and performed an act of fellatio upon me until I reached climax.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. How terrible. Johnny then got dressed, left the YMCA, and filed a report. Samuel Kent was arrested the very next day.
Oh, that's a real oh, no.
Oh, no. Another operator described being taken to a private residence where a sailor known as Becky performed oral sex on him while other men watched and pleasured themselves. He noted the address, the names of everyone present, and the approximate duration of each sex act. Then he went back to base and added another name to the list. The operators were thorough. I'll give them that.
I bet they were.
The reports read like pornographic field notes. Subject placed his mouth upon my organ and moved his head back and forth for approximately 5 minutes. Subject removed his trousers and requested that I perform fellatio upon him, which I did to maintain my cover. Sure you did. Subject achieved climax and ejaculated upon the floor.
You can't even give that courtesy.
Right, just rude.
Rude.
Rude to leave a lady
You're
hanging.
doing a bad job.
I hope he didn't pay for it. This went on for weeks. The operators would go out at night, get blown, get jerked off, sometimes do the blowing and jerking themselves, and then come back and write it all down in excruciatingly sweet detail. The Navy brass read these reports, every lurid word, and congratulated themselves on a job well done.
I bet they did.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, stopped to think, wait a minute, are we the bad guys here? By May of 1919, Arnold and his merry band of cock crusaders had compiled quite the list. They had names, addresses, descriptions of specific acts. They had enough evidence to make any prosecutor salivate. And so the arrests began. They started with the most visible members of the ladies of Newport, the ones who were known in the community, the ones who threw parties, the ones who weren't shy about their proclivities. Men were dragged out of their homes, out of the YMCA, and off the streets. They were thrown into the brig aboard the USS Constellation and interrogated. And here's the thing about interrogations in 1919, they weren't exactly gentle. These men were scared, isolated, facing charges that could get them dishonorably discharged, imprisoned, or worse. And so they talked. Oh boy, did they talk. They gave up names, lots of names. Every man they'd ever been with, every party they'd ever attended, every sailor who'd ever cruised them in a park. The list grew exponentially. 1 arrest led to 5 more, 5 arrests led to 20, 20 led to 50. And so what I was gathering out of this was that, well, the Navy is exactly as gay as we've all been led to believe.
And not only that, you can only arrest so many people before you don't have a Navy anymore.
Exactly.
You're not allowed in our club. Oh no, there's no one to be in our club anymore.
It's just the one white, straight Christian man.
Great, now nobody's offering to suck my dick. Can we start recruiting women or something? Shit.
Lieutenant Commander Foster, the head of the Court of Inquiry, watched his brig fill up with accused homosexuals and started to panic. He reportedly said that if they didn't wrap this investigation up soon, they'd hang the whole state of Rhode Island. But Arnold wasn't satisfied. Foster and the Court of Inquiry wanted to call it quits after court-martialing 15 men. That was enough, surely. They'd made their point. They cleaned their house. But Arnold was on a mission from God, or at least from his own twisted sense of moral righteousness. He pushed to continue the investigation, because of course he did. To me, it just sounds like Mr. Arnold is having a really good time.
I do believe he might be.
More operators were sent out to seek the heat. More men were seduced and arrested. More names added to the list. The thing is, the more they investigated, the more they uncovered. It turned out that Newport's queer community wasn't just a handful of degenerates. It was a whole goddamn subculture.
Imagine that.
There were regular meeting places, social networks, coded language. There were masculine men who identified as straight but would let the fairies blow them for a few bucks. You know, $20 is $20.
Why not?
There were effeminate men who lived openly as women in all but name. There were men in relationships, men who loved each other. Oh no. Men who were just looking for a quick trick. The Navy had set out to eliminate a problem and instead had documented in meticulous detail an entire hidden world.
Oh no,
They created
it's almost like being a homosexual is normal and has been very prevalent throughout history. Oh.
My God, there's a lot more of them out here than we thought there were.
The terror. I've got some news for you, sir.
They had essentially created an archive of queer life in 1919 Newport that historians would later drool over. Every report, every testimony, every description of a sex act was a window into a community that was supposed to be invisible. The irony was not lost on Arnold and his team, of course. They kept getting their dicks wet, and they kept arresting people.
Are you saying that these historical documents, they're now drooling over them because it's that window into a community? Does this mean that Pornhub content will likely someday be revered amongst historians, getting a window into sexual activity in this era?
Yes, and it already is.
I'm thrilled.
One of my favorite things is it's their jab at our government for being transphobic assholes, and they like to post their statistics on which states and what demographics like to watch trans porn the most, and to nobody's surprise, it is white Christian men in Republican states and counties.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. I was thinking more about like tentacled alien horror porn. But no, yeah, yours makes more sense.
Yeah, just imagine when they find that data, they're going to have a treasure trove.
Right.
They're also going to think we were all weird as fuck.
Well, we are.
Which we are.
So, yeah, touche.
So now you might be wondering, where was the Navy brass during all of this? Surely someone higher up in the chain of command was paying any attention. Oh, they were paying attention all right, and they approved every little bit of it. Secretary...
By paying attention, do you mean that when someone's like, hey, where's all the brass? They were literally just locked into their fucking rooms reading this material over and over and over.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
They've disappeared. I haven't seen the guy in a week.
Secretary of the Navy, Josephus Daniels, a real Bible-thumping, temperance-loving, moral crusader type, was fully briefed on the investigation and gave it his blessings. Now imagine that guy sitting in his little room reading all of this graphic porn. Gay! And his assistant, secretary, a young and upcomer named Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
I know him.
Ever heard of him?
A little bit.
Also signed off on the operation. Yes, that Franklin Roosevelt, future president, New Deal architect, fireside chat extraordinaire. In 1919, he was assistant secretary of the Navy, and he thought sending young sailors out to get their dicks sucked for evidence was perfectly reasonable investigative technique. To be fair to FDR, I'm not sure why I'm being fair to him, honestly, but let's try. He probably didn't read the detailed reports.
I don't know if I believe it.
There's a smidgen of a chance he just saw a memo that said investigation into immoral conduct and rubber stamped it.
I don't buy it.
After all, that's what bureaucrats do, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But still, his name was on the authorization, and it would definitely come back to bite him in the ass later.
Oh, yeah, my name was on it. My name is on that list, but no, I never participated. That sounds familiar.
I didn't read any of it. Mm-hmm. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Daniels was all in. When the investigation started attracting attention, and it was hard not to attract attention when you're arresting dozens of men for sodomy, Daniels defended it vigorously.
Very vigorously, I'm sure.
He insisted that the Navy had a duty to root out immorality in its ranks. He stood by the tactics, the operators, the whole sordid mess. The Navy brass was proud of this investigation, and they didn't even try to keep it quiet. They held courts-martials, they issued dishonorable discharges, and they made examples out of the men that they had caught. And that's when the newspapers got a hold of the story. So the scandal goes national. You can imagine how the press reacted. Navy uses sailors as sex decoys isn't exactly a headline that inspires confidence in military leadership. The details of the investigation, the operators, the explicit reports, the entrapment, made for a very sensational copy. Papers across the country picked up the story and ran with it. But here's where it gets interesting. The scandal wasn't really about the homosexuality. I mean, sure, there was plenty of pearl clutching about moral degeneracy and unnatural acts, but what really got people's goat were the tactics. The Navy had taken young sailors, testosterone-fueled, lonely sailors, and ordered them to engage in sex acts. This was not a suggestion. They were military orders. These young men were following orders when they let men perform oral sex on them. They were following orders when they performed oral sex on each other. They were following orders when they attended orgies and took notes.
Is there a way for us to locate if there's any current research going on, and how do we sign up?
And then the Navy had the gall to act like they were the moral authority here. The civilian men who were arrested, and there were quite a few, started fighting back. They hired lawyers, they demanded trials, and their lawyers asked some very pointed questions. If these sailors were ordered to participate in homosexual acts, weren't they just as guilty as the men they were entrapping? If the Navy thought homosexuality was so immoral, why were they forcing their own men to engage in it? Because the Navy's gay.
Quote unquote. Forcing.
The Navy's response was essentially, well, it's different when we do it. And that didn't fly. Not with the public, not with the press, and definitely not with the United States Senate. In 1920, the Senate Naval Affairs Committee decided to investigate the investigation. They called their witnesses. They reviewed their reports, all those detailed pornographic reports.
Right.
They interviewed the operators, the men that they had arrested, Arnold, Foster, and yes, even Secretary Daniels. And they were not impressed. The committee's final report, issued in 1921, was a masterpiece of bureaucratic shade-throwing. They used words like deplorable, disgraceful, and unnatural to describe not the homosexual acts, but the Navy's investigative tactics.
There we go.
Let me quote directly from the report because it's too good to paraphrase. Conduct of a character at which seasoned veterans of the service would have shuddered was practically forced upon these boys.
Wow.
The Senate wasn't clutching their pearls over the gay sex. They were horrified that the Navy had forced young sailors to participate in it. The Senate acknowledged that there were immoral conditions in Newport, that there was a menace to both the health and morale of the men in the naval training station. But they made it clear that the Navy's response was worse than the problem they were trying to solve. They criticized the lack of moral perspective shown by Navy leadership. They essentially said, yes, there were gay soldiers in Newport, but you know what's worse than gay sailors? Forcing other sailors to have sex so you can go arrest the first group of gay sailors. Daniels was humiliated. His reputation took a hit which never fully recovered, and fuck you, Daniels.
Yeah.
He spent the rest of his career defending the investigation, insisting that they'd done the right thing and that the ends justified the means.
Really? He never backed down.
Nope.
Wow.
Roosevelt, being the political animal he was, distanced himself from the whole affair, because,
yeah,
as one does. He claimed he hadn't been fully informed about the tactics. He suggested that Arnold had gone rogue. He did what politicians do. He threw everyone else under the bus and emerged relatively unscathed. But we know damn well you read all that shit, Roosevelt.
Sounds just a little familiar.
The scandal didn't stop him from becoming governor of New York, and it certainly didn't stop him from becoming president. But the damage was already done. The Navy had been quickly rebuked by the Senate. The investigation was officially condemned, and all those detailed reports and evidence of a thriving queer community in Newport became part of public record. So what happened to everyone involved? Irvin Arnold faded into obscurity. Probably still convinced he'd done God's work, the operators went back to their regular duties, carrying with them a newfound adoration for the male physique, after being ordered to have gay schmecks for their country. Some of the arrested men served time. Some of them were dishonorably discharged. A few fought the charges and won. Most just tried to rebuild their lives after having them destroyed by the Navy's cock crusade. The ladies of Newport scattered. Some left town. Some stayed and kept their heads down. The community that had been so vibrant, so visible, went underground again. It would be decades before queer communities could exist openly without fear of this kind of persecution. And the YMCA? Well, they were just absolutely thrilled to have their name dragged through this mess. And let me tell you, nothing says Christian values like being the epicenter of a naval sodomy scandal.
I really bet that the YMCA was so grateful when they were put back on the radar by the village people. Finally, a group of stand-up men.
I have a sneaking suspicion that this whole situation that happened may perhaps be why that song is
do believe
the way it is.
You might be right. I'm not mad at it. I think that's the funniest shit ever. I mean, the YMCA, we're appalled, and then the song comes out. They're like, fuck it. Let's just fucking give in.
Young men. I said young men. But here's the thing, folks. As horrifying as this scandal was, as much damage as it did to the lives of the men involved, it also did something remarkable. It documented a queer community in extraordinary detail. Those reports that the Navy compiled, the ones that they thought would be evidence of moral decay, are now invaluable historical records. They show us that queer people existed, because queer people have always existed, that they had communities, that they had culture and language and social networks, and some very sneaky bush-boning hiding spots. They show us that even in 1919, even in the military, even in the face of persecution and arrest and ruin, queer people found each other. The Navy set out to destroy a community and instead preserved it for history. There's a lesson in there somewhere about the futility of trying to erase people who refuse to be erased, about how persecution often backfires, about how the more you try to suppress something, the more evidence you create of its existence. And it proves something else too, that the people who claim to be defending morality are often the ones engaging the most in the immoral behavior. The Navy brass who ordered young sailors to have sex and then arrested the men they had sex with were far more depraved than any of the ladies of Newport ever were. And so here we are, folks, more than a century later, looking back at this mess, and what do we see? We see bureaucrats and politicians covering their asses while the people they hurt suffer in silence, which is still happening today. But we also see resilience. We see community. We see people who refuse to be ashamed of who they are, even when the full weight of the United States Navy literally came down upon them. And it's a story about how sometimes the people trying to write you out of history end up writing you and themselves and their naughty, naughty desires into it instead. And that, folks, is the story of the Newport sex scandal. Pour yourself another drink. The bar is open. You've earned it. And I will send you off with a dirty martini, a wink, and a prayer that we learned something from this mess. That, ladies and gentlemen, was Exhibit 118.
Yes. I love a good story about shit just blowing up in government officials' faces. Literally in this case.
Oh, skeet.
But that's so true, though. Like, they were basically data gathering, and then all gets published and broadcast across the country. And then there's isolated people who feel like they just need to keep their entire life secret, only to realize, oh my God, there's an entire community that feels the same way.
Yep.
Maybe I'm not crazy. Oh no. It's almost like
I might join the Navy.
Do we have statistics on enrollment in the Navy directly following this debacle?
I should have looked.
Well, goddamn.
Yeah, that was a doozy. That one.
We started this tour with medieval nuns meowing, biting, and apparently inventing the furry fandom.
Then we went to Idaho, where the government solved a beaver problem with aviation.
Which somehow worked.
And that's the part that bothers me the most.
Then we went to Bali and learned that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is build your own demons, parade them around town, set them on fire, and take a full day off.
And honestly, I find that method to be very emotionally mature.
And then we ended in Newport, where the Navy tried to stop gay sex by ordering sailors to go have gay sex.
We definitely did not have any sort of theme here, just straight chaos and a little bit of education.
Nuns.
And demons.
And sailors.
And beavers.
This is a completely normal museum tour.
Thank you for joining us for episode 20 of the Oddities Department.
If you made it all the way through this tour, congratulations.
You are officially weird enough to be trusted with a clipboard.
But not keys.
Absolutely not the keys.
Unfortunately, the museum is now closing for the night. But don't you worry, we've got more strange, disturbing, hilarious exhibits waiting for you next time.
As always, you should be excited.
And a little concerned.
If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review the show wherever you listen.
It helps other weirdos find us, and it helps us keep this cursed museum open.
You can also follow us on TikTok and Facebook for clips, chaos, behind-the-scenes nonsense, and whatever else falls out of the walls.
All right, Gavin, let's get out of here before the beavers find the electrical room.
Stay curious.
Stay weird.
And whatever you do,
do not meow back.
And do not join the Navy's undercover committee. Okay, bye. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Meow. Meow.